listen to me. I am brilliant. Just before we get started with today's episode, I do want to say that it's brought to you by Surfshark VPN. More on them in a bit. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. I am your host, Simon. What happens here? Danny writes me a script. This one is the crazy conspiracy theories believed by famous people. Yes, it happens. Famous people are just human like the rest. I think famous people believe stuff more often than regular. Nah, that's not true. It's just more obvious when they do because they talk about it on their Twitters and they're followed by millions of people. Anyway, doesn't matter. I read it, Sam edits it. It's how it works here. Let's jump in. Imagine the fictional frustrations of Professor Flusterbucket. He's the world's most knowledgeable virologist and the leading authority on infectious diseases. His whole life and career has been firmly rooted in science, and he's earned a wealth of accolades alongside the utmost respect of his peers who are also really, really smart. But I'll tell you one thing he hasn't got.
Huge, whopping penis, wow.
He hasn't got a wicked social media presence. Professor Flusterbucket has only attracted 7 followers on Twitter, and for reasons never quite understood, 2 of them are his mother. So, when he posts something quite rational and logical on social media, nobody really gives a shit. In stark contrast when pop icon Madonna shared a crackpot opinion from her bathtub in 2020 that COVID vaccines already existed but were being concealed to help rich people get richer, it was absorbed by 15 million adoring fans. I mean, the absurdity. It's like, this is like, if there's ever a bigger indication that we live in a crazy dystopia, this is it. This is it. This is it. And when Formula One racing driver Lewis Hamilton later shared a groundless theory on Instagram that Bill Gates was lying through his teeth about potential side effects from the new vaccines, it got lapped up by over 18 million devoted admirers. Look, guys, if I started tweeting shit that sounds crazy, don't listen to me. For the love of God, I am not educated in the ways of science. I'm just an internet fact boy. Do not listen to me. Do not. You should listen to me over like crazy. Listen to me. I am brilliant.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
It's been suggested that celebrities are more likely to display narcissistic personality traits which compel them to make out that they have VIP access to the secret truth that's hidden away from everyday peasants such as you and I. Wait, there's a difference between being a narcissist and believing that you have access to secrets. Like, those are 2 separate things. And also, like, one is being a narcissist, and also one is just being a liar. Like, you could say, I am the best YouTube fact boy in the world. That's an opinion. But then, and narcissistic opinion. But then you can't say, like, oh yeah, I know about Bill Gates and his thing. That's just, because one is, like, just narcissism and one is a lie, Danny. What are you talking about? But it can be a little alarming when we turn to our heroes for sources of scientific information, seemingly under the impression that an actor or a rapper is far more likely to know what's going on than, say, a qualified and experienced scientist. Still, Professor Flusterbucket and his kind had their chance. So let's see what these knowledgeable celebrity figures are babbling on about. And we might unlearn a thing or two. Oh, brilliant. Just remember they're just celebrities. They don't know shit. Learning about chemtrails with Kylie Jenner. Reality star, businesswoman, acclaimed scientist. Oh, wait, no. Socialite. My bad. Why would I get those 2 things confused? Kylie Jenner is suspicious about those funny white streaks puffed out by airplanes as they cruise through the sky. Kylie Jenner watched some YouTube videos from crazy people. A common theory about these clouds of destruction, or chemtrails, is that governments are secretly spraying the human population and crops with chemicals or biological weapons, but we can't agree if they're trying to modify the environment, cause health problems, control our minds, or just kill us. I don't feel like my mind's control. I'm certainly not dead. The environment we managed to by ourselves. I mean, where's the motivation? Kylie Jenner isn't happy either way. In 2015, she retweeted a meme ripe with misspellings which implied that chemtrails were deliberately exterminating children, and even worse, the honeybees. No! Not the bees, Peter. Not the bees! The meme asked, is something being exterminated here? Is that something me? Who the thought this was a good idea? No one thought it was a good idea, Kylie, because it's not happening, is it, you dumbass, allegedly? Her half-sister, Kim Kardashian, was happy to lend a helping hand in finding answers to those conundrums by retweeting Kylie's post to one of the largest audiences on Twitter. And the Kardashians aren't the only ones to be suspicious. Other celebrity figures that we absolutely shouldn't be listening to, like Roseanne Barr, Billy Corgan, and Prince, have also expressed concerns about the suffocating white toxins of doom. People are dumb. People are really dumb.
For real.
Prince even blamed chemtrails for bad behaviour in his neighbourhood. In an interview from 2009, he revealed, "When I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time. A jet just went over, and then you start to see a whole bunch of them. And then the next thing you know, everybody in your neighbourhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why."
Had your kids, had your wife.
Prince, is there anywhere you've been where you haven't seen jets flying overhead? I mean, it's just... they're everywhere. They're planes. It's how people travel around the world, Prince. What are you talking about? You idiot. Yes, chemtrails is the only reasonable explanation that springs to mind for kids scrapping in the street. It's clearly a sign of the times. Of course, the scientific reason for the chemtrails, or contrails if we're living in the real world, is that airplanes leave behind a water vapor when hot exhaust hits cold air at higher altitudes. They're really nothing more than a small trail of clouds which can be tracked and even predicted based on humidity in the atmosphere. And you can't help thinking that if the governments really were showering us with destructive chemicals, they might do it in a way that wasn't quite so blatantly visible. Yeah, you know what the government has the technology to do? Poison the shit out of us without us knowing. Absolutely they could. Would they do it through commercial airlines? Well, obviously not. Unless, of course, they're trying to wing a very crafty double bluff. Learning about 9/11 with the Incredible Hulk. Mark Ruffalo might be known for his illustrious acting roles in a big string of acclaimed movies, as well as playing the more recent incarnation of the Hulk, but he's also something of an expert on controlled demolition, or at least he's watched several YouTube videos on the subject. And when it comes to the deadliest terrorist attack in the history of the United States, Mark is not entirely convinced by the footage or the narrative presented by the government. And not just the government, Mark. Not just the government, but the vast majority of scientists and structural engineers and everyone else is like... it is like they said it is. When you fly two airliners into big buildings, the buildings fall down, Mark. In a 2007 interview, Mark explained that he was baffled by the footage of the destruction of the Twin Towers, as buildings simply don't fall down like that. Unless you fly a plane into it, Mark. He also felt that the official investigation was illegitimate as it didn't follow the motive or the money. He helpfully points out, "I've done quite a bit of my own research." Was that peer-reviewed, Mark? Was that research done on YouTube, Mark? Was that research done in your tiny brain, Mark? Allegedly. Mark is just one in a long list of actors who feel that the US government is lying to the people about what really happened on 9/11 and may even have been responsible for engineering the attack. A false flag 9/11. Holy shit. What is it, 2005? Really? Other celebrity 9/11 truthers include Woody Harrelson, Willie Nelson, Rosie O'Donnell, Martin Sheen, and Charlie Sheen, to name but a few. During Charlie Sheen's interview with, yes, wait for it, Alex Jones, the manic actor claims the commercial jetliners looked like nothing he'd ever flown on. Wait. Charlie Sheen. He's like, "Those planes look like nothing I've ever flown on. They're far too large. And they said there were 200 people on them? That's ridiculous. The most people I've ever seen on a plane was 4, plus the pilots." Charlie, is that because you've never flown commercial? Also, he explained, "Call me insane, but it did sort of look those buildings came down in a controlled demolition." Elf actor Ed Asner has cast more doubt on the fact that the most strongly defended country in history was penetrated by a few Saudi Arabians, some of which didn't even know how to fly. Meanwhile, Rosie O'Donnell points out that this is the only time in history that steel has apparently melted in fire, which is physically impossible. How do you think they melt steel, Rosie? Big brain. Now take a weighty book to go through all of the conspiracy theories related to 9/11 and why they've all been convincingly debunked. I could suggest that you do your own research. That seems like quite dangerous advice these days, but to briefly answer a couple of these points, according to literally thousands of engineers and scientists, buildings really can fall like that without the need to set up a controlled demolition, as the jet fuel would have gradually poured down the elevator shafts. Beside which, if a demolition team had set up explosives beforehand on such a grand scale, I suspect at least one nosy Parker would have spotted this before. Yo, Mike, what's that guy in the hard hat doing? He keeps planting that stuff called C4 around the place. It's like, oh, don't worry about it, Jeff. It's fine. It's fine. No, it's obviously not.
When in doubt, C4.
Oh, shit.
The fires were further fueled by burning furniture and reached 1,000 degrees Celsius in center pockets, which would have led to weakening and warping of steel and the gradual collapse of the towers. I'm not sure if we'll ever really convince the Incredible Hulk, though. Mark Ruffalo is also of the opinions that GMOs cause cancer or will completely destroy the environment. Well, on the first one, that's absurd. On the second one, I mean, GMOs can be dangerous to other crops if they're not kept controlled and all of this stuff. There are risks to GMOs. Do I think they are significant? No. Do I think we can handle them? Yes. Do I think they are going to destroy the environment? No. GMOs have saved possibly millions of lives because of their ability to grow crops in places where it's hard to grow crops, and they could save millions more lives if people weren't so like GMOs when they don't understand dick. That's something else that makes him angry, and you wouldn't want to make him angry. Now let me interrupt today's video just to bring you a message from today's fantastic sponsor who make it all possible. That would be Surfshark VPN. What does Surfshark VPN do? Well, a couple of important things. Well, they protect you online. They keep things anonymous. I don't know how you have you ever been? I've been booking holidays lately because, you know, it's kind of post-COVID, going abroad for the first time, going with kids. It's a bit of an adventure. And have you ever been like on one of those websites, then you go back and it's like, wait, why is this more expensive now? What have you done? And basically what they've done is they've seen you've looked at it twice, that website. So they're like, we know you really want that. So they've raised the prices a little bit. But if you fire up a VPN and go back and also open up an incognito browser, remember that part as well, they don't know it's you. And so they'll give you that original price that you saw rather than you getting ripped off. So Surfshark VPN, essentially, yeah, it does cost you a little bit of money. I've got a special deal for you. I'll tell you about it in a minute, but it will save you lots of money. What else does it do? Oh, this is great. This is like, honestly, the one I use it for most. Like the privacy stuff's great. You know, like if I'm in a coffee shop, I'll always just have it running anyway, just in case. But the streaming options, so, you know, Netflix or, you know, any of the other ones, or some websites are only available to stream in specific regions. But if you use Surfshark, you fire it up, you jump on over to another country which has access to that player or website or even larger content library in the case of global ones. You go over there, you sign into Surfshark, you go over and you find you've got loads more content to watch, which is brilliant. Yeah, also if you live in a country which blocks stuff, like some countries, they're like, you can't use that website. I don't know where that might be. I've been to China. They're pretty heavy on that stuff, but if you use Surfshark VPN, you will be fine. And also in those countries, I also imagine they're like way more into invading your privacy anyway, so use a VPN, guys. Come on now. Got a special deal for you. All you need to do to get 83% off, which is just 17% on, is and get 3 extra months for free, which is a bonus. Go to surfshark.deals/blaze. Again, 83% off, 3 months for free, surfshark.deals/blaze. Enter the promo code BLAZE, and you're good to go. And now back to today's video. Learning about AIDS with Kanye West. Here's an intriguing line from the 2005 track Heard 'Em Say by Kanye West, who prefers to go by the name of Ye these days. So here's what Kanye West says in the track. And I know that the government administer AIDS, so I guess we just pray like the minister say. Yeah, or Kanye, or the government don't administer AIDS, and B, how about instead of praying, we get this, oh look, the scientists have been working on treatments for HIV and AIDS. And guess what, Kanye? Now you can get AIDS, or you can get HIV, and you can live a relatively normal life. Wow! Look what happens when we actually do something rather than just praying, which, breaking news, Kanye, doesn't do anything, mate. Now, we shouldn't place too much emphasis on a single line from a track. I was never convinced that John Lennon really thought he was a walrus for 1 second, but Kanye has gone further in support of the conspiracy theory that the terrible disease which first surfaced in the 1980s has since claimed millions of lives. And he says it was a man-made virus cooked up by the CIA, which was either meant to kill people in Africa, kill gay people, or cut down on the black population in inner-city areas of the US. Either way, the conspiracists generally agree that the chemical experiment spiraled out of control when AIDS started killing white and straight people too.
You trying to kill us?
During an interview with Rolling Stone in 2006, Kanye revealed, "My parents told me that AIDS was a man-made disease designed to get rid of the undesirable people." Well, Kanye, how about you listen to scientists and not your parents? You're not 8. you can make up your own minds and listen. Like, I'm sure, like when I was young, it'd be like my parents would say something, gospel truth, ain't it? Ironic statement, gospel truth, because it's also, it's the gospel. It's like mostly fictional. Then I became an adult and I was like, oh look, there are people who know more than my parents. And when I want to learn something, it's not like now. It's like, oh, I don't know the answer to this question. I'll just phone up my dad and be like, Dad, what's this? I just Google it, don't I? Like a normal person, Kanye. Jesus. Just a year earlier, he probably misjudged the mood of the room when he took to the stage of a concert which was actually intended to raise money to help combat AIDS and poverty. Kanye, read the room. Kanye told the bewildered audience AIDS was a man-made disease placed in Africa, just like crack was placed in the black community to break up the Black Panthers. Film director Spike Lee appears to be in agreement, speculating that AIDS only became a global priority when it began spreading outside of the groups that it was intended to exterminate. In Spike's own words, this is exactly like when drugs became a priority when they escaped the urban centers into white suburbia. Other slight variations on the conspiracy include the theories that AIDS was created in Hitler's laboratories and that it was purposefully placed in KY jelly to eradicate homosexuals. Good lord, guys. The general consensus from the likes of Professor Foster-Bucket is that AIDS is a disease which naturally jumped the species barrier from chimpanzees to humans in much the same way as Ebola and Marburg virus. Yes, but why should we listen to this Flusterbucket dickhead? He's obviously paid off by the government and the CIA to say that, along with thousands of his contemporaries and colleagues. In fact, all of them in all the different countries. I mean, the CIA's got a lot of money, but not that much money. And then you do get people who just don't care about money. And often it probably, like, people who don't care about money probably has a strong correlation with epic scientists. Because it's like, or like, whistleblowers and stuff. Like Edward Snowden probably doesn't give a about money. He's just like, shit, I'm going to tell everyone what's going down. It's like, oh my God. But it appears that some people refuse to accept that there are times in the universe when just happens. The cause for a tragic epidemic must seemingly be pinned on a shadowy, malevolent organization rather than the brutal forces of nature. And we can partly blame Russia and Zimbabwe for sparking the conspiracy in the mid-1980s, as they were among the first to publish press articles and scholarly papers which spread deliberate misinformation on the AIDS virus, supposedly being created by a US Army research laboratory in Fort Detrick, Maryland.
Somebody just asked me why I hate the military.
Maybe Kanye West has changed his tune since his earlier claims and has decided to show a little more sensitivity when discussing the topic of AIDS, or maybe he's far too busy firing the latest round of ammunition in his very public spat with his estranged wife Kim Kardashian and her new flame Pete Davidson. According to very recent press reports, his latest tactic is to tell everyone in earshot that Pete Davidson has got AIDS. Really? That's very petty and sounds like you're gonna get sued, allegedly. Learning about mathematics with Terrence Howard. Whoopi Goldberg doesn't believe that the moon landings happened. This one is mad, but harmless. That might sound a bit mad, it does, but spare a thought for actor Terrence Howard, who doesn't believe in mathematics. Or at least not in the type taught in schools which dares to suggest that 1 times 1 is 1. No, it's like, mate, look, here's one apple. If I told you you've got one of those apples, how many apples do you have? Not one, Simon. No. Known for his roles in movies such as Iron Man and Hustle and Flow, and more recently in the hit TV series Empire, Terrence also considers himself to be qualified in the field of chemical engineering. He reckons that he earned a PhD in chemical engineering from South Carolina University. It's true that he did pick up an honorary degree from there after giving a celebrity speech, but he never attended as a student, and the university doesn't even confer doctorates in chemical engineering anyway. An honorary doctorate, while a doctorate, does not make you educated, mate. And I believe you can't call yourself a doctor. If you've got an honorary doctorate, you can't call yourself Dr. So-and-so. You just can say you've got an honorary doctorate. Terrence also makes the dubious claim that he had earlier dropped out of studying at the Pratt Institute after disagreeing with a professor about the result of 1 by 1. But it's certainly true that Terrence became very passionate about the subject in later life, even announcing in 2019 that he had retired from acting to pursue his new universal math theory, which he has modestly named Teriology. You see, Terrence is convinced that 1 by 1 is 2, and that everything we thought we knew about mathematics is wrong. As he elaborated to Rolling Stone in 2015, how can 1 by 1 equal 1? That means that 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. Dude, did you not follow my example with the apples? It's really simple. Do I actually need props to explain this? Come on, 1 times 1 equals 2 because the square root of 4 is 2, so what's the square root of 2? Should be 1, but we're told it's 2, and that cannot be. what are you talking about? What are you actually talking about?
Is it crack?
Let's quietly gloss over the fact that the square root of 2 is not 2, and that nobody is ever taught that. It's an answer which can't be defined in whole numbers. It's possible that Terence is just confusing multiplication with addition. I can't understand the difference between multiplication and addition, so I'm creating my new maths. It's called teriology, and it's for dumb people like myself, allegedly. The whole point of multiplication is that the second number is the amount you have of the first number. So 1 by 1 is another way of expressing that you have one amount of 1. One apple of what? You have one apple! Wah! But Terence doesn't seem to agree with this way of thinking and believes he's figured out exactly where that idiot Pythagoras went wrong. He finds it difficult to show his working, though. On his quest to develop a new language of logic, Terence and his wife spent years constructing patented plastic pieces which will apparently depict the motion of the universe and tell the truth from within. How much crack have you been smoking, allegedly? Jesus. It looks as if they're dabbling in the new age pseudoscience of sacred geometry to find a different answer to a simple question. He reckons, quote, "This is the last century that our children will ever have been taught that 1 times 1 is 1. They won't have to grow up in ignorance. 20 years from now, they'll know that 1 times 1 equals 2. We're about to show a new truth." Well, there's still time for that one to pan out. In the meantime, Terence posted a tweet in 2017 which attempted to prove, in his words, why 1 times 1 equals 2, but his faulty logic appears to be based on making up his own values and rules to connect the dots in his dodgy reasoning. The tweet concludes with a suggestion that our fake mathematics was given to us thousands of years ago by a race of sky people who delivered a false axiom. Holy shit, my dude. You went from just being like a little bit like nuts and not really smart enough to understand basic mathematics to like, holy shit. What are the sky people? And what is going on? And then they turned into lizards who delivered a false axiom upon which to build a world. And that's where Terence loses my confidence a little bit. Terence lost my confidence when he said 1 by 1 is not 1. Maybe it's no great wonder that he very recently announced his return to acting. Incidentally, Terence also believes that Robert Downey Jr. owes him $1 million after Terence feels he was ruthlessly pushed out of the Iron Man sequels in which his role of Rhodey was recast. This matter could easily be resolved if Robert Downey Jr. agrees to pay the full amount in accordance with his new mathematical theory of Robertology, in which 1 by 1 million equals fuck all. Yes! God, these people are so crazy. Thank you for watching. I've been Simon, written by Danny, edited by Sam. The Holy Trinity of Blaze Boys. And I'll see you next time. Now, just before you leave today's video, let me tell you about another channel that I run called Decoding the Unknown. It's a show where I take a deep dive in some of the world's biggest mysteries, from what happened to the Roanoke colonists to the regular guy who found a listening device in one of his power strips. It's always a bit of a wild ride. You can find a link to Decoding the Unknown below, or just search Decoding the Unknown in YouTube and you will find it. No! Not the bees, Peter.